Okay folks, we've crossed the bridge, so to speak, and we're on to a new deal. Those of you that have been groupies, this is Sticks, thoroughbred horse. He rode English and Western, and he's transitioning to the Western Bridle. And it's been a couple years, I think. He's been in a Snaffle, he's been in a Bosal, he's been in this Las Cruces. And yesterday I was trailing a bull in. It took me 2 hours at a very slow walk. And as my friend Jeff says, you cannot walk faster than a bull can walk. So that much I did know. But my point is halfway through the journey to the corral, this horse got it. In other words, I had to get in the left eye of the bull, right eye to keep it going in a straight line. And about halfway through the trip, this horse figured out what it was I wanted. And then he took over and he started moving himself left eye, right eye with his body, and all I did was sit there and had him in collection with the cricket rolling. So it told me that he made it. And of course, when stuff like that happens, nobody's within 10 miles to see it, so you just got to take my word for it. But anyway, I got to tell Mayor, and I was borderline giddy that he was doing so well. So anyway, today he's in a Ramal rein. It's no longer a split rein. As you know, when I ride a split rein, my hand is flat, so I can help the horse this way. Okay, he's at a point where he doesn't need help this way anymore. Yesterday he proved to me that he was listening to my skeleton. And oh, by the way, pure D, straight up thoroughbred horse. Got enough cow in him, I'll probably have to start milking him. So anyway, this is the traditional, so to speak. There wasn't parachute cord during the mission days, but there's another story about parachute cord I'll tell you sometime. But anyway, you've heard about the palm concho. You've heard about the Ramal reins, the length of them. These are 28 inches. The chains are a foot long, at least. The palm concho fits in the palm. What a concept, huh? And that way I can hold my rope and my reins don't go up or down. And I know there's only 1% of you out there that put these kind of reins on your horse, but that's not my fault. So now, because of the V in the Ramal, which is here, you don't ride a Ramal rein with two hands. If you do, I hope you get leprosy. So what I do is in the Ramal is that I want to end up with the palm concho being in the correct elevation to hold my coils so I can rope. And right now it's pretty darn close. But after he gets onto this bit and these reins, I'm going to probably take at least 2 links out of the chain. That's how you adjust your reins. You cut the links out. That's why there's so many. And what my point is that as he gets more in collection, I'm going to end up all the way back here. And I need to have just the right amount of, right now it's perfect. See that? This is me roping, and that's how much slack's in the rein. And as I'm roping, I just keep doing this and he'll bridle up. That's how that works. Okay, these are the coastal reins, they're called. This is what I use. All right, the get down is from our friend in Australia. And what I'm about to do is, we've got a man from Texas that sent us videos, and I'm supposed to critique them and then show him a video back. So this is what's going on today, among other things. Well, folks, I want you to know that I appreciate Kevin in Texas, what he did, because it takes a person that's a true student to be able to hang yourself out to dry like that and then ask me to critique it. And it's just my opinion, but he obviously wanted it, so he sent me the video, so that's what I'm going to answer. But I always say anybody can ride a bull from a bar stool. What Kevin did was threw his leg over his horse, rode it to where he was at, and then showed it to me. And the good news is I found out I'll get to ride with him in Texas when I get down to Granbury. So this whole thing is going to work out really good. So Kevin, thank you for sending that video. The first thing you have to know is that there's an alphabet in training horses, A to Z. And from the video I watched, you're on the letter L, and you never, ever, ever got clear the letter A, which means a horse walking. There is no collection. It's hollow-backed, pushing on the Hackmore. It's not carrying the Hackmore, it's pushing on the Hackmore. And the reason is two reasons. Your hands are too high and you've gone too fast. If you look at all my videos, you'll die. But as you look at them and you wake up after a while and you keep looking at it, you'll never see me loping circles. All the videos I'm doing so far is to get the foundation on the horse, as in listening to my skeleton. And your horse doesn't hear you at all. So you need to start over. What I want to show you on sticks is where you're headed, and then I'm going to get on Shinako and show you how to get there. That's the best thing I can do for you. So, as I rise to the occasion, my horse shifts to the hindquarter, and I ask him to walk backwards. Now, everything I do with the feet is simply an exercise. What my mind is focused on is collection. So there's the roping position. This is the corral position. That's the position I'm in now. This is making a circle position. It's strange for people to hang on to a romal, but if you think about it, it's better than having 5 feet of rein doubled over that you get hung up in your rope. So now I am in fact in a gait mode. In other words, I need collection. I need my horse to move off my skeleton. So the horse is intentionally walking backwards. And I've mentioned it before, and my friends up in Katati, north of Frisco, I think can agree that it's blatantly obvious that if you can control your spine and the muscles alongside your spine, you can accomplish anything. So I'm going to present my skeleton, ask this horse to walk backwards, and then I'm going to relax my spine and muscles, and the horse will stop. I need to walk backwards, and now I am done. So that's the end of the story. I know it's kind of anticlimactic, but that's kind of what we want in a ranch horse. The near-death experience is fun, but it's not for ranch horses. Hell, this one's damn near 17 hands. So the body will explain to the horse what it is that I want. And remember, the horse is walking around its forehand, but my hand is bumping and releasing several 100 times in a ride. Now what I'm not doing is this. That's something else you were doing. You brought up the word neck rein, which I in fact got diarrhea over. So we don't have neck rein. That's not that doesn't happen. So I'll say, excuse me, I displaced my weight, and what I'm doing is I can feel this horse if he wants to walk forward. And if he does, I will check, but then I will release again. And I'm focusing on how well I can get collection there. So now to side pass, I will simply drop my seat bone and ask my horse to move. I'm looking the direction I want to go. If he walks forward, I'm saying no, it's a side pass. Then he will say, oh yeah, that's right, I got it. Seat bone, looking the direction I want, left leg is off, which incidentally, all the clinics I've done so far this year, nobody believes me that by tightening this muscle right here, your quad, you can take your leg off a horse. Everybody likes to look like they're either a reiner or they're going to Sturgis to park their Harley. You do not side pass a horse with your broken leg. You do it by tightening your quad. Thank you. I know I feel better. Okay, so we've got to reverse the side pass and the forehand. I'll say, excuse me, and I open my shoulder and check my horse, and I want him to walk his forehand around his hindquarter. Now remember, I've said it before and I'll say it again, it's not a cop-out. Perfection's highly overrated. I'm done talking about that. So what I'm getting at, my friend, is that you need to get the foundation before you're going to get this. In flying lead changes, don't go to a clinic for them. They're a no-brainer. When you get a foundation on a horse with collection, leads are an absolute piece of cake. They're no big deal. Your goal later on is for you to look in the mirror in the morning and say, how well can I present myself to my horse? How little can I do to get what I want to get done out of respect for the horse? Now, just for the sake of knowing, for you guys that have trailed bulls home, it's like watching a turtle die. This is what I did yesterday. You got two choices when you're riding out there. You can ride like this, or you can ride like this. I prefer to ride this way because my horse has to use all four corners. So I'm going to ride out here and then walk towards you and show you when the light came on with this horse. What I'm going to do is a leg yield both directions, and that's what I did, I don't know how many hundreds of times, and then he finally just said, okay, I got it. So this is what it looked like when I was bringing the bull in. This is no bull. For those of us that punch cows, you know that it's all about the left eye, right eye. So I'm trailing this bull and I have to move over to push on his right eye to get him to turn left. Then he turns left too far and I push on his left eye to get him to turn right. Then I reach here and I hit the dead middle and he walks straight for 7 steps, and then he starts to fall into sin again. So I have to start doing this again. And this is what I did yesterday, okay? After 1 hour, sticks with the animal in front of him, which I'll show you in a later video, he just simply started doing it on his own because he could see the bull turning the wrong way. And then we walked forward and went in the corral, and nobody was stressed, everything was fine. So it was one of those days. And just a little history, probably, I don't know, 30 years ago, I was on the Bighorn Mountains in August bringing the bulls in. It was an association. I worked for the PK. We ran Hereford bulls. Remember, there's only one thing dumber than a Hereford, and that's 2 of them. So I'm bringing this bull in. He's kind of sore-footed. It's the end of the breeding season. That's when we pulled the bulls off. All they want is a cigarette and some shade. So I'm walking back to camp, and anybody that's been in the Bighorns knows there's meadows, timber, willows, meadows. What I got to do that day was to learn the rollover shot. So I learned to pick up that right hind foot with that rollover that I show in my video. Then I would move over and I learned to throw the backhand and pick up the left hind foot. All right, that was the last time I actually learned something bringing a bull in. Now I've brought in several bulls since then, but yesterday was the first time again after 30 years that I got to do what happened to me with this horse. So I know I babble, but this is the end result of where you want to go when you're starting a horse. Okay, folks, this is Chinako, as you know. And Kevin that sent the video in, I want to show him what he has to get done for homework prior to attaining what I get on sticks. And the very first thing on the horse that he's riding, he's going to have to get some level of collection. So your first homework is to have a horse walk backwards, holding the reins with your hands open and slacken the rein, which tells you that the horse in fact is listening to your skeleton. Now I'm going to back this horse up mechanically like you would, and then I'm going to back it up off my skeleton. So I'm just going to sit here like a reiner and bump the Hackmore and back him up. Okay, he obviously already knows how to back up, but the point is, now I'm going to back him up off of my skeleton. The Presignal, see how his head went down? This is another thing that people are starting to believe when I do a clinic. If you learn to set the reins down when you're not doing anything, your horse can clock out mentally and he doesn't get so tired and anxious and bothered. Because believe it or not, as soon as you touch them, the game's on. That's what you teach them. So when you set them down, the game is off. That's polite for a horse. So now I'm going to pick them up. I'm going to tighten my quads. Everything I do on this side, I'm going to do on the other side. Sit up as high as I can. Lean back a 1/2 inch, not 5 inches. and ask my horse to walk backwards. I will exhale at the same time. There's your homework. It's a horse walking backwards with an open hand. Okay, when you can walk your horse backwards with an open hand, what you're going to learn is that your horse is going to put itself in collection because you weren't putting pressure on his nose. He will learn to balance himself. Okay, what you don't do, I'll show it one time so I don't get a rash, is you don't ride like this. People got confused in the fact that when I teach a horse to stop, I do it with one hand when I first ride him in the halter, and I bump them up to put their hindquarter under him. You ride a Hackmore low, and your elbows never leave your sides. So if you're riding, you look like a dying chicken, you're a dink. Keep your elbow is what makes a snaffle and a Hackmore work. A snaffle, you're allowed to have more of this, but that turns a Hackmore the wrong way. So a Hackmore, you simply, all you do is tip the nose. All right, so backing up is the first thing. Trotting. There is no loping or trotting to get a foundation, but walking forward, what I'd like you to focus on is your posture. Now this horse got a nice long stride, and I never want to take that away from him. But I can cut that stride in half with my body. So now I get him walking, and I let him walk on loose rein. We don't always have contact in Western riding. So now you're going to be sitting, and when you pick up your reins, you're going to keep your hands low. What you do is you ride up here, and that takes your horse and makes his back hollow. So you're going to keep your hands low. Then you're going to stop by exhaling and sitting down. Bump straight up if you have to. Back up, and then step him over. Step him over means your right toe turns out. You check the horse and you put your leg on him, and he's going to move. There is no neck reining. It's a different story, different culture. So for me to turn left, you'll see my right foot go out. My left shoulder will rise, which will drive my right seat bone down. I will open my left leg and I will say, please move to the left. Thank you so much. Now, then you drop the rein, you sit there and contemplate life. While you're contemplating life, you put your hand on the neck and lower the horse's skull. Horse goes down, horse is fine. Head goes up, horse is not fine. Your horse spends a lot of time with its head up. Two reasons: the way your hands are, and the horse has been overexposed and it's getting worried. So you need to back way up. So homework wise, backing with your hands open, and producer, stay in a walk. Oh yeah, I remember you mentioned the spur deal. After the first sentence, I couldn't hear a word you said. I wear spurs. Short story. When we went to Australia the first time, we went to a saddle maker they do unbelievably beautiful work. Because we were Yanks, when we came through the door, he was on the muscle. The first thing he told us, he said, we can't have a bloody horn in our saddle. We got trees. Okay, so we're Yanks. And the man that was with me, his name's Buck, he says, we do have a couple trees in the United States. We can't have a bloody horn here. And I'm like, okay, good. Anyway.
We have brush. We still wear spurs.
We wear spurs in the brush. The spur is a tool. It's not a weapon. I haven't touched this horse with a spur in probably the last 20 rides. However, when I started him, if I need him to move, I used my spur, and then he got onto it. So now I roll my calf, and he moves just fine. So putting your spurs on for one thing and not on for another is like being a little bit pregnant. There's no such thing. Either get in or get out. And if you're scared of spurs, get some English ones. They're nothing. Yes. Okay, the schooling part is what I showed you. When you go outside, My rule is, on a perfect day, I spend 10 minutes schooling and 2 hours riding outside. When I go outside, I walk, trot, and lope. When I come home, I walk. And that's why my horse has a really long stride. So yes, you can still lope your horse because it makes you feel like whoever. Doesn't matter. But don't be afraid to walk, trot, and lope. But when you're schooling, don't get out of a walk until they are good enough to go into a jog. And once again, thank you for being polite enough to send that to me. I'm sure that you're thick-hided. Oh, incidentally, while we're on this subject, there's this dink called Putin over there in Russia. And this is a no-brainer. We have what we call special ops rhymes with Putin drops. Okay, we've got Green Beret, we've got the SEALs, we've got the Rangers, and on that note, all you got to do is get a hold of the Texas Rangers. If you know your history, they send one man for one problem. End of story. Thank you.
What about your story about our sharpshooters who'll do it for gas money?
Well, nowadays, I can't afford it. Anyway, I'm trying to pay homage to Texas. And it is true. If they had a gang of like 6 outlaws, they'd send one ranger.
Really?
And if he needed to take them alive, he'd take them alive. If he needed to kill them, he'd go kill them all and go home. Because Texas was so big, get it?
That's probably really impractical to bring the bodies home.
That's kind of the way they dealt with it. And then if they had a guy that there was an example of a man that beat his wife, so the Texas Ranger beat him almost to death and then staked him out on the edge of town so everybody had to ride by him to see him. And just left it like that. And then they started asking, what happened to him? Well, Texas Ranger come.